Before we start this evening's meeting, I'm required to read the following webcast introduction. I would like to remind everybody that this meeting will be filmed live or recorded and uploaded to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. Therefore, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings. If any public speakers on MSM Teams do not wish to have their image captured, they should ensure that their video setting throughout the meeting is turned off and set to audio only. Members and public speakers are reminded to activate their microphones before speaking and to turn them off when they have finished. Thank you and good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of Planning Committee B. My name is Councillor Sue Jones. I am chairing tonight's meeting. I'll start off with just a brief introduction of who's who for the benefit of the webcast and members of the public. To my immediate left, I have James from our planning department, and he will be introducing all the planning applications this evening. We also have on Teams Amanda Apkar, who is our legal advisor, and she is in the meeting on Teams all the time. And we are giving you a nice wave on Teams. So it's, to my immediate right is Councillor Will Kaufman. He is my Vice Chairman. And then to his right we have Therese from Democratic Services, who will be minuting and giving us any advice on the actual format of the meeting. And then to my very far right we have Steve Mitchell, who is kindly doing the webcast for us tonight. As far as in the chamber, on my left here, we have members of the committee who will be discussing the applications and making the decisions. We also have Councillor Jean Lee, who is also a member of the committee. But then behind Councillor Lee, we have other ward members and portfolio holders who have joined the meeting and obviously will be able to express their opinions, but they are not part of the actual decision making. Can I just reiterate, I know Therese has given us, members of the public and speakers, advice on how long you can speak for. If you can keep to those times, it's really helpful. There will be a buzzer that goes just so that I don't lose track of time, and that's your indication that you need to start winding up. If you can wind up very promptly, it's much better for you to wind up yourself rather than me interrupt you and say that's it. So if you can, as soon as you hear that buzzer, you've literally got about 10 seconds to wind up, please. I think that is as far as we need for the moment and indeed covers item 2 on the agenda. Before we go oh no, I think I can do that a bit later. So we'll do the apologies for absence first, please.
Yep, we have apologies from Councillor Stocker. And although Councillor Lear is here, she can't stay for the whole meeting, so she has also said her apologies.
Thank you. And substitute members therefore?
We have Councillor Lucas in for Councillor Lear.
Thank you. Okay, item 5, members. Any declarations of interest on any items on tonight's agenda? Thank you. Oh, thank you very much indeed. And Councillor Brooks.
I have to declare that I've represented the area, Tewkesbury Close, since 2016, and during the course of that time I have visited the applicant, Mrs Marsh, and her partner once, and also visited once one of the neighbours during the course of the last 9 years. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you for that declaration. Thank you very much. Item 6, the minutes of the previous meeting, which have been circulated. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, we therefore move to the planning items on tonight's agenda. Members, the item 7, EPF 006525, we have received an email from the Parish Council confirming that they will not be attending to speak at tonight's meeting. As you are aware, because this item has come to this committee, the Parish Council do actually guarantee that they will be attending, and because they're not attending, if they weren't attending, it would be normally decided under delegated powers. So following our chairman's briefing this evening, the recommendation is now that we refer this item back to the planning officers, and they will make the decision under their normal delegated powers. Is everybody in favour? So first of all, sorry, have anybody got any concerns about that? Can I take it then, members, that you're all happy for that to be referred back to planning officers? Okay, thank you very much. So we therefore move to item 8. This is EPF 063424 at 49 Broomstick Hall Road, Waltham Abbey. And I'm going to turn to James, please, to give the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. So, yes, the first item tonight is land adjacent to 49 Broomstick Hall Road in Waltham Abbey. The application's for the erection of a new two-storey dwelling, and officers are recommending that planning permission is granted. So starting with the site location plan itself, it's on the northern side of Broomstick Hall Road, in the middle of the built-up area of Waltham Abbey. Looking at the aerial view, it's this site here, which is an obvious gap in an otherwise built-up frontage in the middle of the built-up area. And this is the proposed positioning of the new dwelling. As you can see, it's quite a long way set back from the existing front elevation of the donor property at number 49. Approximately 6 metres is the setback, and includes a single car parking space for the new house. Given the curvature of the road, officers consider that it's designed to sit well back in the plot. It will reduce its potential significance and respect the character and appearance of the street scene as a whole. And then turning to the elevations, the proposed dwelling is relatively unremarkable, albeit conventional design of a mass and bulk that's akin to the donor dwelling. It's notable that it's of a larger scale than the adjacent bungalow. But given that setback, which is, as I say, it's quite prominent in terms of a setback, that's not going to be overly prominent in the street scene or cause it any significant harm. And lastly, this just shows the street scene from the front and the rear. There's a decent degree of separation to the bungalow, of which it is clearly a smaller scale. It's very similar to the donor property. And then lastly, I just wanted to address the issue of the flood zone. I know that is set out in the officer's report, but it is located within flood zones 2 and 3. Now, normally, a sequential test would need to be applied and passed for a development of a vulnerable development, let's say, to be situated within flood zones 2 and 3. So in this instance, however, this is an existing built-up area in the middle of Waltham Abbey. It's a pragmatic approach that we're taking, and it's not an unprecedented position to take. I think in the report you can see that the planning inspectorate have taken a similar position, that the erection of a single dwelling in an already built-up area in the middle of Waltham Abbey is not going to cause harm to the occupiers. As I say, it's a well-established estate. So, subject to the conditions and the obligations set out in the report, the obligations being the payment towards the Epping Forest SAC and the conditions as set out, officers are recommending that planning permission is granted. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have two speakers on this item. Firstly, an objector, Melanie Klein. Hello, good evening.
So I'm speaking on behalf of the residents of Broomstick Hall Road that live closest to the proposed development, including those who receive neighbours' letters. We see the main issues of the proposal as being parking and road safety and feel that they have not been considered seriously enough and presume a site visit has not been carried out. There is already not enough parking for the residents who currently live on the road and has become considerably worse since number 29 has become a 5-bedroom HMO and number 49 becoming an Airbnb, renting out 3 bedrooms, accommodating 7 guests and usually 4 extra cars, vans or cars from there, often parking on the double yellow lines as there are not enough spaces and also using the proposed land next to number 49. Residents from Eastbrook Road have also been using our road to park there as they do not have enough spaces in their road. The proposed development is situated on a dangerous blind bend on a very busy narrow road which already has major problems with traffic and parking. Almost every day people stop their cars in the middle of the road arguing and swearing and refusing to give way to oncoming traffic. Parked cars are often damaged by passing or reversing vehicles. Buses cannot get through as there is not enough room and cars come speeding round the blind bend like it is a racetrack. The proposed development will make it even more dangerous and unbearable for residents, for pedestrians walking along the narrow pavement, and will make it more unsafe for school children walking to and from school, one which is situated on the same road and another which is close by. We have noticed in the officer report the fact that the parking space does not meet the required size, but in this case is deemed acceptable as we are close to local transport. It is well known by residents that the local transport is infrequent and unreliable and there is no train station in walking distance. When the planning application for two-bedroom houses, EPF 293320, was refused for the plot of land opposite house numbers 43, 45, 47 and 49, from the highway and transport perspective, the impact of that proposal was not acceptable to the Highway Authority for the following reasons. Number one, the proposal does not have any parking provision which could lead to inappropriate curbside parking in the vicinity of the site to the detriment of highway safety. Number two, the parking standard recommends a minimum of 1 parking space per dwelling given the location. And number three, the proposal, if permitted, would set a precedent for future similar developments which could in time lead to additional inappropriate parking and would undermine the principle of seeking to discourage on-street parking in the locality. Surely these same reasons for this refused application in 2021 should apply, considering the proposed development is opposite and nearer the blind bend.
Thank you very much indeed. Timing was absolutely perfect. Well done. Thank you. Okay, right. And our second speaker is Catherine Smith, the applicant's agent. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman and members, and thank you for allowing me to address you this evening. My name is Katie Smith, and I'm the agent for the application, which seeks planning permission for the erection of a detached 3-bedroom home on former garden land. The application site is separately owned to the adjacent 49 Broomstick Hall Road and unrelated to applications seeking alternative use of that site. This application proposes a family dwelling house, and that is all that is intended for the future of this site. Planning permission was first sought in 2018 and delayed due to issues with the adoption of the local plan and the mitigation strategy for the Epping Forest SAC. The application was resubmitted last year. The application is accompanied by a drainage and a flood risk assessment, which confirms that flood risk can be suitably mitigated by the provision of on-site drainage, which it is anticipated will be secured by a planning condition. This approach was agreed with the Environment Agency during discussions since 2018. Essex Highways raised no objection to the proposal, subject to the parking space being provided on site to meet their minimum space standards, which is proposed to be secured by planning condition. The application significantly exceeds the 10% diversity net gain sought through the requirements of the Environment Act, with the proposal delivering an 82.7% increase. The proposal would deliver a 3-bedroom dwelling in keeping with neighbouring dwellings and providing a much-needed home in Waltham Abbey to contribute towards meeting unmet need and accommodating a local family. The applicant is willing to enter into a Section 106 agreement to make the necessary payment to mitigate the impacts on the Epping Forest Special Area of Conservation. It is respectfully requested that members are able to support their officer's recommendation and grant planning permission this evening. Many thanks for listening, and I'll be happy to receive any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. The ward members aren't in attendance. We are. We're doing the...
It says it's in Waltham Abbey North, but it's actually in Waltham Abbey West.
Yes. Microphone. Can you turn your microphone on for that clarification, please? Thank you.
Sorry. I'm the town councillor for it. It's still north in the town, but it's in West in district, so I'm still a...
Right. So you are town council ward member, but not the ward member, but the ward is Waltham Abbey West. Okay, can we just clarify, just as Councillor Lucas, obviously you're on the committee, so actually can't be part of the, you can input information for us, an opinion, but you can't be part of the decision. So I think we are happy that it's Waltham Abbey West, yes? If it is Waltham Abbey West, the right thing would be for you to declare an interest as ward member, but you would then go to the other side of the chamber.
Who would be able to clarify?
We're just
that
going to
for
find
us?
somebody who can clarify
Okay, thank
for
you.
us.
Postcode of the site.
Hello.
Councillor Norris.
I did ask this question earlier and got an email from the planning officer saying he confirmed it was in West.
Right.
I do think you might have been included in that email.
No, if we have a...
So it comes in.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's just I shouldn't be on this. I shouldn't be voting if it is north.
You're okay, Councillor
Yes,
Norris is okay.
Councillor Norris, I think you're okay because you're north. Okay. Councillor Lucas, I'm afraid we've been able to confirm that it is in Waltham Abbey West, so therefore you can't take part in the decision. So just for this item, if you could possibly move to the other side of the chamber.
You can take part, you can't vote.
Yes, you can't. You can take part, but you can't vote.
Sorry, can I just come in? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Amanda.
Sorry, the top of the report says Waltham Abbey North. We're at 49 Broomstick Hall Road, Waltham Abbey.
I think
on the officer's report, it says Ward Waltham Abbey North.
It does at the top of the report. I think Councillor Norris was saying that he had asked the question and he's had confirmation from a planning officer that it's in Waltham Abbey West.
Okay.
And that's right, that's wrong, of course. This is just...
Is there any way we can get a definitive answer as to... It is definitely West. Okay. Okay. Councillor Lucas, would you like to speak as a ward member on this? In that case, I can invite you to speak first, if that's all right, before we open it for discussion. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And that was slightly confusing. I was under the impression, obviously, from the agenda that it was in North, so I apologise
no problem at all
for that. And, yeah, for the lack of declaration as well. Obviously, now could that declaration please be noted. This is obviously I know the area very, very well. I completely understand this application. As the agent suggested, it's for a family home. I wouldn't ever usually be somebody to recommend not to build a nice family home for the residents of Waltham Abbey. But the location, as every probably person in Waltham Abbey would know, is really inappropriate. That bend, I drive it quite regularly. You're constantly, you've got oncoming cars coming towards you. I'd be particularly concerned, especially during the construction period of a new dwelling there. but especially with the school children, numerous school children walking that road up and down, so that if members were minded to approve this application this evening, please take into consideration the construction phase, because I just cannot see it being possible for multiple vehicles turning up and lorries, etc., especially not reversing down that on anywhere near that road with the amount of school children that are walking up and down there. But yeah, it would. I personally just think it's in an inappropriate place to be building a new dwelling. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I know this very well, this corner. My own grandson was knocked down on this corner a few years ago. If you've never visited and you don't know Waltham Abbey, this is on the end of a high walk with railings. So you've got houses that are on a high walk at least a metre high. And at the end of it, it slopes down. Now, the children every day running to school run down there like lunatics. Now, they're trying to put a house now at the end of that, stepped back. There's cars already parked in it. How they reverse out, I do not know, because on the opposite side of the road, cars are parked all the time. But on the side of the railings, then when something's coming from the town, heading that way, cars then come to go. They have to reverse back to let the cars through, because you can only go down on one side of the road. There's rows all the time. It's terrible. My main concern is I'm very concerned about the children. I'm not happy that it's now an HMO after the hassle we had before, because we have no idea who these people are living in there. We've had numerous times the police have had to attend the school because there's been incidents and men hanging around. Even just the week before Easter, I had mums come to me because there was a man hanging around near the school. Now, you've got two small schools directly behind that, within 100 metres. You've got a senior school just 200 metres down the road. And I can't vote on it because I'm a ward councillor. It isn't suitable. That road, when there was a problem with the sluice gates, cars was being washed down the road. It was like a giant river. There's a brook on one side, further up the road. There's a brook that goes across and under the road. It is often flooded. That house, if it was built, is much lower, at least a metre lower at the end. And I know for a fact that that side, they have had flooding, because directly behind, again, you must go up 2 or 3 metres onto Monkswood Avenue, which is directly behind where they've built. So you're talking, you've got houses right up here, all round. Then you've got the end of the high walk, this little low bit where there's a little tiny bungalow and where they want to put this house. And I realise those aren't planning issues, but the parking is not safe there. There is no way is that safe for anyone to have a car parked there, because they would have to reverse out on a bend where there's cars parked on the opposite side of the road, where cars are zooming this way, then the people coming this way have got to reverse back to let them round. It's just a nightmare. So it really, in my eyes, obviously the planning officer hasn't been and seen this, because I cannot imagine that a planning officer would have agreed, or county would have agreed, for a house to be built there with parking. There is no parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Thank you. Members, open for discussion and opinion, please. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. I visited the site earlier this week, and I thought there were double yellow lines on the opposite side of the road to where this development is going to go. I accept it's a narrow road. I drove from one end to the other, and you do have to give way quite often as you're driving along there. I think it's from planning issues alone. I think if we refuse this, it could be appealed and will probably be given. To be frank, I can't see a planning reason to refuse this application. It's a piece of empty land. It's not attractive. I think I'm supporting it, but I'll wait to hear from other members before we go any further.
Thank you. Thank you. just on the highways issue, we do need to note from the report that highways have not objected. That doesn't diminish the concerns about the parking, but it does have a significant weight on the effect this would have if this did go to appeal, because highways have not objected, and that would be taken into consideration. With that said, Councillor Dadd, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I have considerable concerns about this particular application. I visited the site earlier this week and found the parking very, very difficult. And the actual site itself had 3 cars parked on there. It's interesting that the developer's agent said that it is no longer part of ownership of 49, but presumably as 49, as I understand it, is an HMO, they are also parking there. So you're going to displace more people. But I'll come back to the parking in just a minute. But I'm also concerned that we are actually looking to permit building where you've got it in flood zone 2 and 3. And it's all very well to say there's already an existing residential area. The application form was inaccurate because there is Cobbins Brook just over the other side of the road. There's historic flooding all along there. Cobbins Brook goes into the River Lee. So it's not just fluvial flooding, there's also surface water flooding. And because there is quite a steep gradient from the road behind, I think that that is going to have more and more problems. Apparently number 49 has not had flooding issues, but of course it is much higher than the road. And it looks to me at the flooding maps that number 51, which I presume is the bungalow number, may well have had flooding issues. Whether people will get an insurance on that, I don't know. That's not a planning issue, but I am dismayed that we are thinking about that. But going back to parking and school children, yes, they run along very, very narrow, and they run along there, and it is a very dangerous road. I was in there in the morning, on Tuesday morning, and it was busy then. As the agent says, that the highways are happy providing it provides the minimum space standards, but it does not. And I have read carefully Essex County Council's minimum parking standards, 2024, and Appendix Table 8.2, vehicle parking standards for C3 residential dwellings, says for 3-bedroom, it goes under whether it is under a map of high connectivity, moderate connectivity, or low connectivity. Well, there are actually high and very high, there is good and moderate, and there is low and very low. So from that presumption, and looking at the maps, the connectivity maps, Appendix A, it was not particularly clear whether it comes under red, which is low, or green, which is good. But either way, it cannot come under, in my opinion, that does not come under high connectivity. So even if it was moderate, for 3 bedrooms, that is 2 car spaces plus 0.25 unallocated visitor space. And this is not compliant with this, and therefore it's not compliant with our policy T1. Actually the low connectivity is similar as well. But I think that we also...
Can I just pause there and see if the planning officer would like to come back to us on that point?
Well, microphone's still on.
Oh, thank you.
I think to call Waltham Abbey an area of moderate sustainable transport links would be an understatement. I think it is a well-connected area. Certainly one that can take a reduced level of parking. And what I want to emphasise is what Councillor Jones said, which is the Essex County Council Highway team have not objected. They are fully aware of the context of Waltham Abbey, the context of this road, and also the proposed space, car parking space that's being proposed by the application. And they have concluded there would be no adverse effect on highway safety. So if you were suggesting that that would be a reason for refusal, I would suggest very strongly that that would not be very strong at an appeal.
Thank you. And of course, back to
Can I come back? Right. I understand what you're saying, and certainly under the old parking standards, that would have been the case as far as reducing if it was in a good connectivity place. The new parking standards didn't come out until either December or January this year. And I think if you look at the application form and all the work that's done on that, that actually probably relates to the previous one. And I still say that this is just not, I mean, and what they try to do with the Essex parking standards now is look at the different connectivities in different parts, and it's quite detailed, and looking in detail at Appendix A, and you know, I say that we should not accept it. There's not enough parking space. Plus, you're displacing the existing parking, and I think there's going to be more and more accidents. And thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Other members? Councillor Councillor Morris, sorry.
Yeah, Morris.
No, so sorry, I think I said Norris earlier, I apologise.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing comes down, to me anyway, the whole thing comes down to safety on the road and the fact that the parking makes the road unsafe, basically. And I've used that road quite a bit, and the residents have a terrible time there. So, I mean, I know that highways don't have any objection, and that's not unusual. I find they very rarely have any objections. Are there any ways that we can use conditions to improve the safety of the road with the addition of this extra property and the parking that's going to be on the front of it? Because there will be, in that part of Broomstick Hall Road, the other properties don't have their own parking, so they're parking on the street, but that one does have its own parking. So it's going to have to come in and out of that slot. I mean, I tried to get a bicycle out of there and nearly got knocked down. So, I mean, I do think there is an issue. And I just wonder if there's anything we can do to improve that. And the second point is that road has a weight restriction on it. Can't remember what it is, 3.5 tonnes, something like that. There's a sign at both ends of it. But it's not enforced, so you tend to find quite frequently huge lorries going down. Now, how the heck they manage to get down there, I don't know. Is there anything we can do about enforcing the weight restriction on that with a condition of some sort? I mean, I know I'm grasping at straws here, but the road is pretty bad, that road.
It is.
Your microphone.
Microphone, please, Councillor Morris.
Let me take the second point first. No, there isn't. It would be a police issue rather than a council one. It's not something that we enforce or monitor. Regarding the first point, yes, there are conditions, and they are proposed conditions to attach to the consent, which is to ensure that the minimum space of 5 metres by 2.5 metres is provided on the site and retained as such. And then secondly, that no unbound material is used in that surface, so gravel, things like that, that could be chucked onto the highway and cause highway safety hazard.
Of course, Councillor Morris.
And the question about it being a HMO, is that something that we can condition to say that it should remain like a domestic dwelling, or is that... yeah, that's a question. That's my question. Yeah.
Good question. No, we can't. But what we can do, so there is a permitted development right that allows the conversion into an HMO up to a certain size. You could elect to remove that PD right, and therefore any HMO would need express consent from the council.
Councillors, any further comments?
Thank you, Chair. I've only got three points. One of which is that it says in the reports pack that development may be acceptable if you can take a more pragmatic approach subject to appropriate mitigation. I'm not clear what the mitigation was. It said that drainage could be provided by on-site drainage, but clearly if I would think the area is flooded, that would have meant that the on-site drainage would have been overcome. So I don't know whether that should mean that there are additional steps taken to the design of the house, that it's elevated up a touch to make sure there is a safe way in and out in the event that it is underwater. Point 2 is just looking at it on the street view. I mean, we didn't do a site visit on that, and I'll come back in a second on that point. Is that the way that the entrance to the site works? You have to drive across the partially raised area. Can we have a look at the site plan again, just to understand how that works? Because if that area is removed to make it a level entrance, then there's going to be a step up onto the pavement, so the pavement will no longer be disabled accessible. I don't think. And point 3 was whether or not we should consider that we do refer this back for a site visit. So that the plan does show, it shows that there is the ramp that remains. So how do you drive in and out across that ramp? I mean, you can see in practice at the moment it's all broken up the roadway there. So, and it's only got one parking space.
Sorry, you're asking me that question?
Yes, so are we saying it's only got one car parking space, this house?
Yes.
And it's a 3-bed unit. What was the minimum on that? I think Councillor Dad had the numbers.
In the old one, it was 2 plus 0.25. But if it was in a very good sustainable area, they could consider reducing it. In the new one, which I'm not sure when it actually was published, but it's certainly either the end of last year or beginning of this, under table 8.2, for 3 bedrooms, it says for high connectivity, 1 plus 0.25 unallocated visitor space, moderate connectivity, 2 plus 0.25 unallocated visitor space, and under low connectivity, 2 plus 0.25 unallocated visitor space.
Thank you. Sorry, could you just flip back onto that? Sorry, just asking for one further clarification. Is that the entrance to the driveway then? Is it the one, the plan you had, that one? So the entrance to the driveway is literally immediately adjacent to where the ramp reaches its bottom level with the driveway.
Yeah, that's my understanding, yeah.
Okay.
So if there's a car there, theoretically, you can't get on the ramp.
Yeah. Okay, members, have we got any further comments before we start summing up? Okay, members, I think there has been mention of some additional conditions if this were to. So before we go to the overall vote, I think I just want to clarify the potential additional conditions. Also, Councillor Will Hoffman did mention a possibility of deferring this to allow for a formal site visit. I think that got a little bit lost in the presentation. Sorry, so I just wanted to, it will be picked up on the webcast. Possibly we should talk about that first before we look at the conditions. Has anybody got any further comments on Councillor Will Hoffman's suggestion?
Thank you, Chair. I think at the Chairman's briefing, I wasn't part of that, but I think it would have probably gone along the lines of everything you need to see is visible from the street. It certainly was when I went down there, and every member's had an opportunity to go and see it without a formal site visit. I think formal site visits should now be used where you cannot view things from the road, and I think this one you definitely can.
I think, and those of us who have actually driven down the road, I think we can all appreciate the parking problems, but that does not take us away from the fact that Essex Highways have also been there, seen that, and haven't seen it as a problem. So, okay, any other comments? Right. In that case, can we consider further some additional conditions that the planning officer mentioned? I think there was one talking about an additional condition for the minimum parking space to be included.
Yeah. So I was just checking.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, it's in there, condition 11.
Thank you. So that one is covered by the condition 11 that's in your agendas. Another additional condition that was mentioned was that no unbound material be used in the construction of the driveway. That will ensure that we don't get gravel spilling onto the footpath, making it even more dangerous. Councillor Dadd?
I think we need to be more specific if you're going to do that, because you also want it permeable because of the flooding issues.
It has to be permeable anyway. You can't construct it with impermeable. So it has to be, by planning policy, it has to be permeable.
Sorry, Chair, that's actually in condition 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've just got to say,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one we feel is covered under, does that include unbound material? Thank you. So that's it. So the other condition, which I think might be more interesting, is that we would, a possibility, if we consider it appropriate, to remove permitted development rights. This means that any change, whether it be an extension or a change of use to something like an HMO, would need a full planning permission. Has anybody got any comments or opinions on that? Councillor Norris?
Yeah, I'd support that condition because it would prevent the house becoming a multiple occupancy with more and more cars appearing. So I think that would be, just in this particular circumstance, I think this would be a relevant condition to use.
Mm. Yeah. It just means that they would have to come back for full play. Councillor Dadd?
It would also be relevant to the minimum parking standards, because HMOs have a higher requirement, as do more than 3 bedrooms.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Kaufmann?
I was going to say, can we also add a condition that the applicant repairs the damage that's been done to the highway there? Just, I mean, obviously nothing is going to show online, but you can see from the street view where it's all sort of broken away here, that's obviously going to get made worse while they've got material coming in and out. Is there a condition that can be...
That's not
But how do you undertake repairs to the highway?
That becomes... That's not within the applicant's...
No, but it will be, it will be worsened by vehicles going in while the site's being constructed.
Sorry, Councillor Williams, sorry, I was looking at...
Sorry, I totally agree, Councillor Kaufmann. I've been mentioning this for years, and it is impossible to actually police or do anything about this. The number of pavements and crossovers that have been destroyed when houses have been extended are throughout the district, and there is no way of actually policing it.
What it could stop people being able to actually get out of their houses onto the pavement if that ramp is damaged or a car is parked there, say. It's just some sort of way of making sure that it doesn't... Sorry.
I don't think members are saying it's not a problem, but as Councillor Williams said, it's not governable by a condition. There isn't a condition that we can impose on the landowner of the application site.
There's not a way to say that the development will make sure that as a consequence they make sure that the public highway remains free and flowing. Something written to that extent.
Councillor Williamson, thank you.
I think something else that was mentioned in the debate that we haven't picked up on was construction management and delivery. I think we could probably go quite strongly and try and miss the school times for deliveries onto site.
Sorry, Councillor
That's the point
Articali,
in terms
thank
of during the construction. I'm sure we can put a basic requirement for traffic management during the construction. That's the highest risk, so it was picked up, but we need to be quite strong on the actual delivery during the construction.
Yes, yes, we have certainly on other applications put quite stringent conditions, so it cannot be done within certain times within school start and finish. Okay, so members, I think then we have the potential of 2 additional conditions. One is to remove permitted development rights, and secondly is to be more specific on the construction management plan to protect school beginning, start and finish times. Have we got anyone who's actually would like to propose those? And so Councillor Williamson.
I'm happy to propose those 2. Yeah.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Norris. Morris. I'm so sorry. So sorry. It just runs. Sorry. I do know you, Councillor Morris, and I do. I'm so sorry. Oh, dear. So we have those additional conditions proposed by Councillor Williamson and seconded by Councillor Morris. If you would like to, all those in favour, please show.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much indeed. Having voted on those additional conditions, we then pass to the main vote, which is the proposal is to grant planning permission. That is with those additional two conditions. All those in favour of granting planning permission, please show.
4.
Those against?
2.
And any abstentions?
1.
In that case, members, planning permission has been granted. Thank you. Right, moving on to item 9. Before I hand over to the planning officer, I would like to thank the members who attended the site visit yesterday at the site of 6 Tewkesbury Close under application EPF 157424. I think it was a very valuable site visit, and thank you very much indeed for those members who were able to attend. I'd also like to thank the applicant for letting us have access to the site. Thank you. Right, over to you, James. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yes, item 9 is number 6, Tewkesbury Close, or land forward of number 6, Tewkesbury Close in Loughton. Just to dive straight into the application site, this is the dwelling here, number 6. Its front elevation, its rear elevation, and this is the proposed land in question that we're looking at. The proposal tonight is for the variation of 2 previous conditions on a previous consent that was granted, permission that allowed this piece of land to be used for domestic purposes. And just to give you the site plan, so the blue line is in the control of the applicant, which is the main house, and this is the land in question, which we are looking at. Now, I took this directly from the report because I think it's really important to looking at this application. So this is condition 3 that was added to the application that allowed its change into a domestic use. Now, there are 6 tests of conditions. So when we look to apply a condition or an obligation, there are these tests that must be passed, that it must be precise, necessary, reasonable, relevant to planning, enforceable, and reasonable in all other respects. So this was this is a very detailed breakdown of that previous condition. Now, what the case officer has done is, I think, really helpfully put into context why the detailed or the precise details of that previous condition are either not precise or not reasonable or not enforceable In other words, they don't meet the test of applying that condition. So the whole idea behind this condition that was put on was to, it's obviously a very landscape-led condition that was mainly looking at ensuring that the character and appearance of the area is maintained and is an attractive area. So the revised condition is, in our view, meets all of the tests of requiring that condition in the first place, which is a scale plan to show the planting and the retained vegetation, which is actually the same as the previous one. A schedule of the planting, including native species. So it's a little bit different to the previous one, which included a definitive time span, and it was imprecise and unenforceable. But by requiring a schedule of the proposed planting, including the native species, that gives the council control over what comes forward and how that would look in when it manifests. So a management plan for the wildlife, including a longer growing grassed area, bird boxes, hedgehog boxes and insect hotels. That's again the same as the previous one. And then D is about the existing watercourse that's there. So previously it was quite prescriptive about it remaining uncovered and free flowing. It doesn't meet any of the required tests in our opinion. But if we say that no changes can be made unless it's agreed in writing by the council, then it does meet the required tests. Oh, someone's just taken my presentation. Sorry. Sorry, bear with me a second. Okay, we're back. Okay. So that's condition 3. We say it meets the thrust of the policy and why it was put on in the first place. It also includes within 5 years of planting, they should be replaced if they become severely damaged or diseased. Now that is in accordance with standard practice. It's what planning decisions are used by the planning inspectorate. So that is a standardised part of it. Oh. And lastly, condition 4. So condition 4 is the standard removal of permitted development rights. So in this case, it was A, AA, B, C, D, and E. So effectively, by allowing the change of use of the land forward of the principal elevation of number 6 Tewkesbury, that house lost the ability, without planning permission, to be extended in any way. So Class AA, so to extend it at ground floor, side, in the roof, anything like that, even put in outbuildings in their rear garden, would need planning permission. So clearly that's just plainly unreasonable, because if the applicant was to not carry out that, they could do that anyway. It doesn't change the status quo, in other words. So we say that I've separated these out just to say that these ones are overtly irrelevant. When it comes to Class E, which I believe is the main thrust of why those permitted development rights were removed, i.e. to prevent that area of land being used for outbuildings or for swimming pool or anything else that's covered by Class E. But the point is, it's not necessary. It doesn't meet the test of necessity because it's forward of the principal elevation of number 6. So it can't be done anyway without planning permission, because it's clear in Class E of the GPDO that it must be behind the principal elevation. So plainly, they couldn't do it anyway. So we say it's not necessary. So the complete removal of condition 4 and the variation of condition 3 is what we're recommending. Thanks.
Thank you. We do have we do have 2 speakers on this item. Firstly, an objector, Peter Gurnall. Good evening. Thank you. Yep, in your time. Thank you.
I speak on behalf of my neighbours, our community, and most importantly, the woodland we've fought to protect for the last 4 years. It has already been stated that the proposed planning changes are opportunistic, disingenuous and surreptitious. The applicant claims to have looked after the land for 27 years. She has not. This is a prime example of the deceit that she has demonstrated. Please see images of the ecological vandalism caused so far that I have emailed to you all. The woodlands have been cleared illegally, and so all conditions should remain. We believe to comply with EFDC planning laws M5 and M9, the drainage ditch and the trees need to be returned to their original state. Had the councillors been given the correct information by planning officers on a site visit and a subcommittee south meeting, the original application would have been refused. I don't understand why the committee was not told the manicured garden never had planning permission. The original committee approved the application with stringent landscaping conditions on the understanding that the land remains ecological and be returned to its natural state. Never at any point has permission been granted for a private, domestic, fenced-in residential garden for sole use. This is not a garden application. It is an attempt to acquire Crown land for private gain. Our community had land drainage consent to erect the wildlife-friendly fence and reintroduce trees and biodiversity. Instead, now we face illegal outbuildings, fences hostile to wildlife and creeping development. We urge you to enforce Condition 4 and ensure permitted development rights remain removed. Otherwise, this will spiral into further unsightly outbuildings, unchecked and unaccountable. This is our frustration. Some EFDC officers have withheld information from both the committee and the public. By allowing culverting, the Environmental Protection Team never considered the impact of the bioverse woodland, mature trees hiding our houses, wildlife and its habitat, nor have they considered our screening, our visual amenity and privacy, as well as our well-being and mental health. For 4 years, we've been misled. Trees have been felled before any application. Riparian rights does not give you land ownership or entitle you to destroy a woodland. Every new submission the applicant makes is riddled with discrepancies. This is a calculated strategic erosion of woodland for future development and financial gain. This should not be allowed. Chair, members, enough is enough. Please refuse this application. Help us restore what's lost. Protect our woodland, our homes and our right to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our second speaker is the applicant's agent, Ben Norton. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillors and officers, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. This application concerns a small strip of land that has, unfortunately, as you can see, become a flashpoint in the local area. While I won't dwell on the misinformation that has circulated, some of it quite ugly, I must emphasise the application is very modest in scope. My clients already have planning permission for the change of use of this garden. What we are seeking today is simply the amendment of an overreaching condition and the removal of another that is plainly unlawful. Condition 3, imposed at condition stage without consultation, may have been well-intentioned, but as your officers have correctly identified, it fails the national policy test for planning conditions. The majority of its wording is either imprecise, unenforceable, irrelevant to planning, or simply unreasonable. Planning conditions must meet these 6 tests, and the planning practice guidance is clear. If a condition fails even one of them, it should not be imposed. Officers have rightly concluded that the current wording of Condition 3 would not stand up to scrutiny. Crucially, they agree that our revised version does meet all 6 tests and still supports the reason the condition was imposed in the first place, to secure natural landscaping and protect biodiversity. Condition 4 seeks to remove permitted development rights from a part of the property outside the red line of the application site. This isn't just unnecessary, it's unlawful. Your officers have correctly concluded that this condition should never have been imposed and it would be entirely unenforceable. Let me be clear. Removing these conditions doesn't remove scrutiny over future development. Any proposal involving operational development would still require a full planning application and be assessed on its merits. As far as I am aware, there is no such plan. I am also aware of threats of judicial review from objectors. These appear to be resting on misinterpretations of planning law. A judicial review cannot be sustained on the basis of defending a condition that just does not meet the legal tests. In summary, your officers recommend approval. The revised condition is enforceable, proportionate, and in line with both national and local policy. It reflects the realities of domestic garden use and respects the limits of planning control. While I have some time, briefly, I would also like to say that yes, trees have been removed. Yes, the culvert was, yes, the ditch was culverted. This was done because of residential subsidence to number 6 Tewkesbury Close. It was done in consultation with officers at Epping Forest who approved it all the way through. A complete misrepresentation of the truth has been purported. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Right. Councillor Brooks, as ward member, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you all. Most of you, I think, were able to come along and see the site yesterday. Because I think, to be fair to the officer, Mr. Rogers, who's presenting, the plan that we saw on the screen of the red area, didn't fully, I feel, give a representation of the scenario of 6 Tewkesbury and the back of Whittam Close. Whereas I think a visit to the site does show you really why a proposed change to these conditions, particularly for the neighbours of Whittam Close, does have an impact. On the planning portal, you'll see a number of applications for 6 Tewkesbury over the last few years. Riparian rights are a very complicated business, and we would be here all night if we discussed them. The watercourse of the brook runs across the applicant's garden and along the back of several houses in Whittam's Close. And the cutting down of these trees has had a significant impact on the neighbours. There is a strong case for creating a biodiverse environment and not creating more manicured garden. So I would ask if you could consider carefully the conditions that Plan South put on this last March. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members. Councillor Amos.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. When I originally read the papers regarding this, I thought it was one of the most bizarre things that I had seen in terms of planning. It seemed that the application to convert wasteland to garden had been approved with the conditions that it remained as it is, if you read all the conditions that had been imposed. I think the planning officer has been very helpful in that she set out and dealt with each of the original conditions, saying which was valid and which was not valid, and furthermore has put forward a proposed alternative to condition number 3. And if I may, I would like to commend her for this. I found this very helpful. The condition, I was surprised. Before I joined this authority, I'd sat on other planning committees, and I thought, I understood permitted development rights. And when I saw this, and I thought, well, what are you going to build here? Where? Under which category? And I can fully understand why the planning officer said it's not relevant. This was my view. I was also surprised, though, to some extent, that the applicant had asked for it to be removed, because why remove something that's not relevant anyway? Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. Councillor Dadd.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Amos said a couple of things that I also think. Why want to remove condition 4 if you have no intention of doing something? And my query about removing that particular condition entirely is that we don't, that is referring to permitted development rights, AA, E and all the rest of it, but we don't know yet whether this present government are likely to change permitted development rights. And I think that we should have a condition that number 6 has removes any permitted development rights going forward as well, if that is possible, because you know, if they want something that requires a new building there, for example, they would have to go through normal planning process, I'm sure, but there could quite well be, you know, in the near future, changes to the permitted development rights. On the other matter, again, I'm not quite sure why EFDC allowed conditions that they're now saying are not permissible. So it leaves a committee member a bit confused about, are the present suggestions defendable? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just get one thing clarified then? Because I was under the impression that, the stretch of land that we're discussing, if condition 4 was removed, it would definitely still need any planning permission for any sort of building, outbuilding of anything. I don't think it's going to be unprotected. I think it would still need full planning permission.
Can I come back and ask about that then? Because permitted development rights do change from time to time, and this piece of land, as I understand it, is linked to number 6.
Yes, but I don't think permitted development rights would come into this. It would need full planning permission for anything new on that site. Sorry.
Can I
Please.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor. That's just plainly unreasonable. Just because you can't base a decision on something which may or may not happen in the future, you have to base it on what current, what the statutory instrument says at the moment, which is that, and as Councillor Jones rightly says, that anything on that site, outbuildings, etc., would require the consent of this council, the local planning authority. So it is still protected. What the government may or may not do in the future is frankly irrelevant at this point, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. I was on the original Plan South Committee. I did the site visit for that one. I did the site visit for this one. I think I'm probably the only member voting that has done both. The applicant's agent said it may have been well-intentioned. It really was well-intentioned. It was a very lengthy debate. It was a quite heated site visit previously. And the intention of removing permitted development rights was, in a way, we thought, protecting the residents of Whittam Close. I accept the arguments that have been put forward here this evening. I am a little concerned that if officers could confirm that this approval and this changes to conditions ties this land to number 6, because we've got these confusing red lines and blue lines. I'm going way off piste here, but could it be transferred to number 5, and then it would be adjacent and then could have planning permitted development rights? At the moment, I accept all of your arguments, but is this decision tied to number 6 specifically?
It's a householder application, so it is related to number 6. That isn't to say that it couldn't in the future be sold or whatever, but that is not what we're looking at. We're not looking at the land ownership. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Chair. So the one thing I'd just like to clarify then is, what is the position with the greenhouse that's on the land? If we're saying that there's no permitted development rights, which obviously it's ahead of the front elevation, so that's clear. What are we saying? You know, that we're clearly going to say that any land that is ahead of that area has anything built and it requires planning consent. We've walked on the site, we've seen something on the site, that hasn't got planning consent, so what's our next steps?
I presume that's under enforcement. Sorry.
Yeah, it is, Councillor Jones. That would be an enforcement matter. It's not in any way related to this application, which is very plainly what I said regarding the variation of one condition and the removal of another. Anything that's on there at the moment which may or may not have planning permission, the only remedy would be through an enforcement investigation, and that would be the only way.
Okay. Anything further?
Well, can we, for the record, just say that I think it would be worthwhile for enforcement to start looking at it, because clearly we don't want to be led down a path and ultimately just turned over here.
I think if members are happy, we can certainly ask for that to be communicated to the enforcement team. Sure. Yeah, members are happy with that. I think it is that's relevant. Yep. Okay. If we can leave that to be referred to the enforcement team. Okay, Councillor Williamson.
Just coming back, Chair, I think having read all of the reports, spoken to, I've asked officers questions and had them answered. As long as we're quite clear that the landscaping still has to be approved by the council, which it does under this condition, and as long as anything that's built on that land requires planning permission, I'm happy to go along with the officer's recommendation on this, rather reluctantly, but...
Thank you. Councillor Dadd.
Can I also ask about the existing trees, whether they have any protection and whether they should have any protection if they don't?
Thank you.
They do not. They're not TPO trees, but there's no way we could put a condition on to require their preservation. So, as in, they could just be removed at any point. So, whilst the landscape condition that we're proposing would deal with how it would look in the future, they're not legally protected trees that are currently on site.
Okay. Councillor Morris.
I just had a quick question about the fact that one of the original conditions hasn't been met. So they were supposed to submit details within 3 months for condition 3. Can any action be taken over that, or what should be done about that? So yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
So non-compliance with the condition would again be an enforcement matter. You're right that the previous condition did state as well within 3 months of the decision being made. That was not completed. So they are technically in breach of that condition, and the remedy would be through enforcement. But the remedy is not through this application. Again, this is what we're looking at. Our enforcement team can be asked to follow up on this if it's approved within 3 months that occurs. But regarding the previous condition, it's not relevant to this particular application.
Thank you. Right, any further comments, members? Members, we therefore have a proposal of the variation of condition 3 and removal of condition 4 of EPF 268823, which was a change of use from wasteland to garden. All those in favour, please show.
5.
All those against?
2.
And abstentions?
1.
Right, in that case, that has been agreed, but if I could emphasise, please, for enforcement, it to be looked at for enforcement possibilities on the current outbuilding greenhouse on that site. Okay, and I think we should also add, if members are happy, ask for enforcement to actually keep an eye on that the conditions that we have now agreed and follow those up in 3 months from today's date. Members happy with that? Any problems? Okay, in that case, members, that brings us through to item 10. Any other business?
No further business.
And as there is no any other business, I am closing the meeting at 8:15.
I just speak on behalf
I'm just reopening the meeting.
Sorry, yes, I'm sorry. I think I probably should have said something at the beginning, but on behalf of the Loughton councillors, we did want our very best wishes to Graham Courtney, and we're very sorry, and we hope that he does have a speedy recovery, and please send him our regards.
Yes, thank you. I think we can all echo those sentiments, and absolutely, and wish him a very speedy recovery. Thank you. In that case, members, on that note, I am now going to close the meeting at 2016. If there are any people, please, in the public gallery remaining, I would ask that you leave the public gallery as promptly as possible, please. Thank you.